This is the Sony DSCHX20V. It's point and shoot, it's boxy looking, and this one's black. I think it looks really nice. It looks like a proper camera. It's got a nice sort of a shape to it and a very chunky feel. It feels solidly made. It feels good in the hand actually. I like the grip where I can sort of wrap my fingers around the front. I also like the fact there's a little dimple in the back for me to put my thumb on so that I'm not going to accidentally press buttons and change settings. Speaking of buttons, it isn't bristling with knobs and buttons, which I also quite like because I think there's nothing worse than having too many things to have to fiddle with. But also the buttons that are on the outside, first impressions say that these are things that I'm likely to need. They're not just sort of pointless. Things that I'm going to need, I like to have on the outside so I can get at them quickly. I'm not going to have to ferret in a menu too much. The command dial, I quite like this. It has a good sort of sturdy feel to it. It's not likely to change as you pull it in and out of your pocket. It snicks nicely into place and holds things together. When I fire it up, pressing now, as you can see, that camera wakes up very, very quickly. I think that's completely excellent because you don't want to be pulling it out, switching it on, and by the time you've turned the damn thing on, your kids have run off somewhere else or whatever it is you're trying to take a picture of. So what have we got on the command dial? We've got a P mode. That's going to sort out your exposure and your white balance and all that kind of stuff for you. You can, of course, go into a menu and change that to customize your settings. Maybe you want to control your white balance or your ISO and not let the camera do it. That is all changeable. There is a manual mode on this camera and I'm not altogether sure why, because there's only two apertures to choose from and they're not so far apart they're going to make any actual difference. And when I was trying to change from aperture to shutter speed, I absolutely cannot find how you do it. There we go, it's activated the flash. So does that matter? Well, to me it does. I think manual's a bit pointless on a camera like this, and if you're a little bit more techie than I am, then there's a good chance you're thinking, well, why on earth don't you just do this, that or the other? What I dislike with these sort of cameras is the level of assumed knowledge that you will know automatically how to switch between aperture and shutter. I want it done simply. You have a memory recall mode, which means that you can set up different custom functions within the camera and pre-program them so that you can go back to, say, a setting you've done for a bright sunny day or settings you've done for dull cloudy days with colours and contrasts and all that sort of thing. There's a panoramic mode, which we're going to have a play with a bit later. There are various different sort of video settings. There's a straightforward video setting. It shoots in high def. We have a 3D mode if you're starting to get into the new 3D type stuff as well, which could be pretty funky. Scene mode. You can select from various different scenes in the back of the camera, from sort of, you know, a soft skin portrait-y type thing. Soft snap, that gives you a soft background. DSLRs with long lenses, you can make blurry backgrounds really, really nicely. It's very hard to do with a little compact camera, so that supposedly takes you through to being able to do it. Various vibration modes, landscape modes, backlight modes if the sun's behind you or you've got tricky lighting, a bit like in this video. Night mode, sport mode, all the usual stuff. There's a gourmet mode, which apparently will make your food taste nice, and a cat mode of all things. When we start moving on around, we've also got some intelligent modes. There's intelligent auto. This means the camera should be able to detect what it is I'm taking a photograph of and then choose the appropriate settings for you, so that if I want to do a macro, a close-up, it should know that and set the camera up accordingly. There is also superior auto, and it says on the back here, shoot sharp images, it's just gone off, shoot sharp images reducing blur and noise automatically. So I'm assuming that means it will detect the correct mode, but it will also go into super sharpening mode to make sure I don't get any fuzzy pictures. And then we have a P for program mode. This is the place where I think this camera is probably going to work best, but the best thing to do is to go and find out and give it a go. Now, it has a claimed 18 megapixel camera, but this has a very, very tiny sensor. It's only a 7.62, I think it is, millimeter sensor. That's a very, very tiny sensor indeed. So although 18 megapixels, you may think, wow, that's tons, that's more than my professional DSLRs have, I think that could have an impact on image quality. For me, there is one other problem as well. It doesn't have an optical viewfinder, something to put your eye to. Now that may seem really kind of petty and ridiculous, but when you have the LCD on the back and the light is changing, a bit like it is today, there's a few clouds in the sky, the sun's going in and out. If it's really, really bright and sunny, these LCDs are hard to look at and get your composition nice. I think a little optical viewfinder would make a world of difference. But enough of this techie stuff. Let's go and see if it takes nice pictures. Something I'm quite interested in is whether or not this little camera is as intelligent as it claims to be. Will it really know what I'm pointing the camera at? So we've got some beach huts going on, blue sky, all that cool stuff for a landscape. So let's switch it on. I'm on the intelligent auto mode. Let's see what we can do with these huts here. I quite like the thought of some of this in close in the foreground, going off down there, bit of blue sky, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to set the lens as wide as it will go. Now this camera has a 20 times optical zoom. Now that is a very, very powerful zoom indeed. It's the millimeter equivalent of 25, I think it is, to 500 millimeters. That is an enormous range to be in one place. Something to remember though is the 25 millimeter end is not going to be the same as a 25 millimeter on either a full frame sensor digital camera or a DX, because the sensor in this is minute. It's really, really tiny, and that has the effect of making the lens longer than it actually is. Awfully complicated. You're going to need to go and Google about sensor sizes if you really want to find out about that, but trust me, it will put you to sleep. Right, photo time. What can we do with this? I'm going to have a little bit of this light blue here, I think, first. Just in tight to the edge there. Yeah, look at that. I've got a little green symbol in the top left corner that says landscape. It knew it was a landscape, so that's pretty cool. Let's see if it knows what a close-up is. We've got down here, yeah, we've got some little shells here. I'm just going to do a shot of those. You can come and have a look over my shoulder if you like. We're still on landscape, so if I just get in close here to some of these shells, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see in the viewfinder, that's filling the shell, that's filling the frame, and I'm very close. I'm focusing only about 1.5 inches away from the shell. Now that, I think, is very impressive. Let's take the picture. Where's the shutter button? There it is, there. That's pretty cool. But I don't know if you can see up there where my thumbnail is on the left. That is a landscape symbol. So it didn't know it, but it looks to me like it has taken the picture really quite successfully. What else can we do with it? How about a portrait? Here we go, Alex is on camera. I'm going to shoot a portrait of Alex and see if we know that it's a portrait. So it may or may not do that. It does, it does. I got a flashing portrait sign. That's really quite exciting. So here we go, Alex looking into his camera. A little bit of a soft background going on there as the lens was longer, so that's quite cool. So it seems to kind of know what it's looking at. I haven't tried the intelligent auto with sharpness. These are all things you could play with yourself. I'm just interested in, does it taste nice pictures? And is it easy? And with that in mind, I'm going to have a crack at a panoramic, I think. Oh, that's interesting. As soon as I put it onto panoramic mode, the lens zoomed in on its own. So I guess it's automatically going to set to its widest setting. Yeah, when I try and zoom the lens with it in panoramic mode, it will not use a longer focal length. There are creative reasons why I would find that frustrating, but let's face it, why would you buy a camera like this? It's really to have in your pocket when you go out at the weekend. You just want to take some nice pictures when you're out and about. When you're on panoramic mode, I get in the back here a little arrow of marching pictures moving left to right on the screen. It's telling me what to do. There's text at the bottom. Press shutter and move camera smoothly in the direction of the arrow. Smoothly. I think that's a great word. So let's see. Let's start off where we were with our original shot, looking along here. But I'm hoping with panoramic I can take from here, sort of like that, I can get all the way around to here somewhere. Let's just press the button and see what happens. So, smoothly moving the camera, button down, we're off. I'm just moving the camera smoothly off to the right here. We've got a nice shot of Alex, the cameraman, the horizon, and over to there. Yeah, that's not bad, is it? That's not bad, is it? That's really quite good. So even though it doesn't have the widest angle, wide angle lens, the panoramic function really seems to make up for that. Let me go and see if there's anything else we can play with. This little camera has inbuilt picture effects in the menu. When you're in the P mode, you can go in there and you can choose things from HDR, rich black and white, mini, there's a toy camera effect, a pop art effect. I quite like these sorts of things because suppose you have a rather dull day, it's a bit lacking in contrast. With one touch you can pop those presets onto an image, and sometimes you can come up with some really quite visually interesting things. Some of them are dreadfully gimmicky, I have to confess, but I thought let's give them a go. We don't really have a problem with a dull day today because we've got sunshine, we've got nice colours, we've got a blue sky going on. That's really exciting. But what we have got here, and as I said that the sun went in, what we have got here is we've got some of this spiny grass. We've got green beach huts, we've got green trees and a bit of sky. It's the closest thing we got to sort of monochromatic. If the sun stays in for a moment, this will be a good test. So let's start it off with the HDR picture effect. I'm just going to compose this shot up and take it. Oh, it's processing something. I've got to wait while it processes. I don't know what it's doing. Processing. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. The next one, back into the menu. I do dislike having to go into menus. Do you know what just happened then? I accidentally pressed the button. So maybe I'm not so accurate. Rich text, rich black and white. So here we go. Line up our shot again and shoot it. Sun's coming out. This is quite interesting because I'm having to wait while the camera pauses and processes the image. Maybe I'm just not used to that happening because, you know, generally speaking, I obviously use a DSLR. Miniature. Shoot images with the effect of the subject as a miniature. This will be interesting. So let's just set up our shot and shoot it. That's quite cool. I thought that looks really... I think that looks quite interesting actually, and I didn't have to wait for it to process, which is always a good sign. I'm very impatient. Toy camera effect. Let's try what a toy camera effect looks like. Yeah, I kind of like that too, from what I can see of it in the back here. And finally, what have we got? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Menu, here we go. Pop art. Let's try a pop art picture. This should be really quite exciting and vividly coloured. Doesn't look bad to me. And press the wrong button, apologies. This is a spot colour thing. So what it's saying here is it shoot dramatic shots colouring only the extracted colours. Knowing that I'm not that terribly techie, I'm intrigued to see what will happen. So I shoot it. So what have I got? I don't know. As far as I can see, I've just got a black and white image. Okay, this is an out-of-the-box tech. I could be doing something wrong, but I don't want to see complicated things in here. I want to see really, really simple things that I don't have to read a book. I can understand it from the camera. And what's the last one? Shoots warm, fresh, emphasizing the bright areas. One more of those. And focus her up and shoot the picture. I don't like that very much. That's really over the top and not terribly exciting. But there we go, we've got some interesting picture modes, and we're going to compare all these different things. When we get back to the office, we can look at some of them side by side, see what the image quality is like. We all want to get interesting shots, don't we, of sea breaking over things and stuff splashing up and a bit of spray going on. It's always quite interesting to do that. This little camera has a continuous shooting mode of 10 frames per second, which is very impressive. You want to catch your kids falling in the swimming pool, running around the park. It might be quite cool for catching some of this sort of stuff with water boiling up in the air. To set it, it's really simple. You just go into the little dial on the back, you press the wheel to the left and you're into the different frame rates. So I'm going to hit onto continuous frame rate, that's the highest one, 10 frames per second. Let's get in here and take some shots. Just going to get down low here. Oh wow, that looks amazing, and I was just too late. So I've just got to wait a second until we get a wave. Here comes one. Look at this bad boy here coming in. That's going to look really cool. We might have to run to get out of it. Okay, so here we go. I'm shooting 10 frames a second. What happened? Did we get it, or was I too soon? It's not bad. I think you're going to get the idea, but I was a little bit previous with that. Here we go. I'm going with this one. And excellent. That was pretty good. And as you flick through them, you can see how the action is going from one to the other. That's not bad. 10 frames per second out of a little camera like that is very impressive. Let's see what the video's like. I've already set it onto video mode, so let's shoot a little bit of footage of me walking down here so we can kind of see what difference there is. This little camera shoots 1080 pixel full HD video, so it should be pretty good by all accounts. But it's always interesting to compare it with something. Now obviously it's not going to be the same as a high def TV broadcast camera like this one, but hopefully it'll be pretty good. We shall soon see. I wonder what the sound's like too. I'm just going to shoot a few bits of video like you might. Looking across here, you know, a little pan across the bay. See what it looks like. There we go. Nice little shot like that. Maybe a little bit of a close-up thing of Alex here with his camera. So Alex is being the man and I'm just kind of moving around him. So there we go. We've shot a little bit of video as well. It's going to be interesting to stick it into the computer and just kind of see what kind of quality there is there. There's a bit of exterior noise going on out here, so it'll also be interesting to see what the mic sounds like. What sort of sound does it pick up? And so, much as I love being outside in the sunshine, it's time to go back to the office to have a look at the results. Now let's have a real close-up look at some of those pictures that we've taken, and a closer look at the video too, just to see how it performs. The first thing that happened when I got back here was I plugged the camera into the computer and it wanted to install its own picture viewer file manager software. On my computer it just sat there going round and round and round and round for ages, and it was unable to install the software. Now that could be a conflict with my computer, it obviously was, but it's not a great start, is it? So what I did was I took the card out, put it into a card reader and dragged everything across myself. So let's have a little look. Let's have a look at a picture. Let's put in our landscape shot that we took and just see what it looks like. Now on first impressions it looks pretty good. The colours are okay. It seems reasonable. The auto ISO has set itself at 100 ISO. Well, okay, that's pretty good. That should give us the best image quality of the lot. So let's zoom into it and have a look at it at 100%. I don't know if you can see this in the video, but to me, looking at that at 100%, it looks kind of weird. It just kind of looks, it looks like a drawing rather than a photograph. It looks a little bit like a sort of a watercolor going on here. You can see it a bit in the post, but you can particularly see it here running through the beach huts. That isn't particularly great, and it is something which happens with these much smaller sensors, even though they have a high pixel density. Let's have a quick look at, no, I don't want to change anything. Let's try one of our arty coloured shots. Let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. I quite like the way it's done the colour saturation. It's a bit of a wacky kind of a looking image. Again, let's just take that up to 100%. To me, that actually looks better along the beach huts here. But oh look, as soon as you start to go into an area of soft focus where you get, you know, separation between sharpness and softness, it starts to give this funny looking sort of watercolor appearance. Again, I don't think that's great. When viewed at a normal size, it doesn't look so bad. So what does that mean? That would mean really to me that you can't really crop into an image like this because you're going to start losing image quality. It's not great in the first place, and it is quite a large file size. What have we got? Image size, yeah, so unpacked, that's a 51 megapixel file, so that's a pretty big file, but it isn't actually that great to look at as you blow it up. So if you're going to take a picture with this camera, you really need to get your composition right in the camera. Don't start trying to crop it afterwards, or else you're going to start making your picture deteriorate quite badly. Finally, let's have a little look at the video that we shot. Let's have a closer look at that in detail and see what we have. Now this is at 1080 pixels, so it's high def video. If I just play it on my screen here, oh, and before I forget, the camera shoots an MTS file format, and again I'm guessing this needs to run through the camera's own software manager, because in my computer it just shrugged its shoulders and said, well, what do you expect me to do with that? You know, that annoying little message when it doesn't know what something is. So I had to run it through our file converter, and that did recognise it and turn it into a QuickTime so that we can look at it. I do wish they just use a much more normal file format. So let's have a little look at that bit of footage that I shot. Now, viewing this on screen here, actually it's not that bad. Possibly a little bit contrasty, the colours aren't amazing, but look what a tiny little sensor this camera has, and at the end of the day it's something you're just going to have in your pocket for a few family videos. As you've heard, the sound isn't amazing, but then it has a very wide field of pickup, and I think the sound is definitely better when I'm speaking from behind the camera rather than from in front of it. Let's just stop that. So what would I say in conclusion about this little camera? Well, I really wanted to fall in love with it. I really liked it. When I first took it out of the box and looked at it, there aren't too many knobs and buttons. The menus are fairly simple to use. I'm not the techiest person in the world, and if I can get through them, then so can most people. But I did not fall in love with it. To me, the whole point of having a camera is that end product, that you can get some really great, lovely pictures. So if you just want a little camera, something small that's relatively easy to use, you can just stick it in your pocket, that's got a very powerful zoom, then I'd say, yeah, it's probably not a bad little camera. It's reasonably priced at 240 odd quid, so it's not that bad. But if you're more of an enthusiast and you would like something which takes better, smoother, nicer tonal range, better colours, something that you could actually blow up a bit bigger and stick on the wall, I wouldn't choose this one.